Hello, everyone. My name is Igor Tomych, and today I'm glad to show you the banking API on the example of ClearBank. That's quite a deep topic, and I will try not to spread a lot of functionality, but go into the quite specifics of what is the banking API, how they work in terms of the ClearBank, what is the usual integrations, and so on and so forth. So thank you for joining today. Let's start. So I will start with the DashDevs. DashDevs is a software engineering and fintech consultancy company. We've been active on the market for more than 12 years, and we did a lot of by that time. Mainly nowadays we are focusing on the engineering in fintechs. We delivered a lot of projects which are connected with the banks or APIs or some kind of fintech functionality. We also focused on the mobile engineering, and we delivered quite a big number of customer-facing applications and websites. And we are a global company. We have offices in the United States, in United Kingdom, and in Europe. So if you would like to learn more, go to our website and read our cases and information. We do a lot there, and I think it's quite interesting to find out. A little bit about me. I'm Igor Tomych, I'm CEO, but I used to be an engineer. And taking this, it gives me a really good ability to assess the engineering and fintechs from the business perspective to the back to the engineering side. And that gives an ability to highlight what is important to make the business successful, or vice versa, how business can impact the engineering and coding side of the projects. I have quite a lot of experience. I wrote my really first application in 98, more than 20 years ago. I've been participating in creating fintechs products from the scratch, or helping to digitalize them or revamp and release new versions. One of the really cool example that we have in the United Kingdom, it's starting delivering EMEI digital bank completely from the scratch in 9 months. And this one also had the integration with the ClearBank. We helped different financial institutions, and we're continuing to do so in different geographic jurisdictions. And we have pretty extensive experience with the different vendors to facilitate your financial services. One of the cases that really speaks for itself is Pi1. As I mentioned, the digital bank in the United Kingdom. We designed this B2B2C platform, which allows to spin off digital banks in any region. It was quite cool because in this case, we partnered with the Project Imagine, and we've been responsible as DashDevs. We've been responsible for whole technical implementation. We delivered 2 mobile applications natively developed for iOS and Android. And it pretty extensive application and platform, because it basically combines 4 applications in one: everyday banking, saving and budgeting application, investments into the bonds and portfolios. And there is a bunch of vendors that integrated, and ClearBank one of them. And I will show you at some examples how it worked and how potentially you can use all benefits of banking APIs in your platforms. The second case, which I think also relevant as a company, we extracted all this experience by helping clients all over the world and put it as concentrated source code, which is called fintech core. So it's a platform which is licensed to third parties as a source code, and help to reduce time to market and the budgets for spinning off the digital banks, or by using different models here and there, financial functionality, like for instance, KYC orchestration sometimes is pretty useful, not even for the fintechs. So a lot of models, and one of them is account management, and we have the plugin which enables out of the box ClearBank integration, which means if you would like to have functionality which is connected to ClearBank or similar institution, you can leverage our fintech core and go to the market faster, test your business ideas and business models. So today, we will talk about what is the banking API, what is the ClearBank itself, why it's so different from other platforms and other banks. We will talk a little bit about incoming flow for the transactions and how you usually implement this functionality in your platform. Also, what is the outgoing payment flow, like how it affects your platform, what are the usual steps for going into the production with Clearbank, and additional information. In the end, you will have a possibility to ask the question, and also there going to be available QR codes that will give you an ability to schedule the meeting with me or write the questions. So let's dive deep. And what is the banking API? So we might hear API quite a lot nowadays, because in this case, application programming interface is something that engineers or not engineers in digital products are using a lot. But how it's different from banking API, from usual API? And I think what is important here, that there is quite specific split, that institutions who are providing banking API, they licensed, which means they have certain compliance and regulatory requirements to provide you the functionality. Because if you take a look on regular APIs, you don't need to be licensed or some kind of be compliant with the usage of those APIs. Usually you go directly to the website, register there, obtain the sandbox for free, or even pay something and then get into the production. With the banking APIs, usually there is a specific moment when your business entity is checked for the license requirements, or you need to contract with the institutions like Clearbank that they can provide you the license umbrella, and then you might have a possibility to use the APIs, financial APIs, to provide the specific functionality. So banking APIs, in short, provides diverse financial services within the platforms or applications. And usually this functionality can be split, I would say, in four buckets, but it's not usually like that. It can be a little bit different, but let's focus today on those four. So usually the banking APIs, it always starts with accounts, because that's a place where you hold in your balances, and that's a specific process where you allow through the APIs to create accounts for the third parties. So let's assume I'm running a new bank, which is called Bank, and then I would like to open accounts on behalf of my customers. So I would like to open an account for Igor. Then I can actually go to Clearbank, have a license before that, let's say MEI in United Kingdom, and then sign the contract with Clearbank for providing as a new bank the functionality to the customers. And in this case, my institution will create accounts for Igor, and then you can leverage the second functionality, which is multi-currency. The currency in which balance is stored usually heavily depend on the jurisdiction. Like years before, Clearbank had only possibility to open accounts in British pounds, but nowadays they support in multi currencies. And I think it's fair to say that all the platforms are shifting right now to multi-currency support, because it gives better retention to their customers as B2B business. In this case, I don't need to integrate with the several facilities for different currencies, and Clearbank, one of the keys that supports that. Usually, by just having an account and having the money stored or balances in this institution, you need to somehow to move funds in and move funds out. And the really first way to do that is local payments. In case of United Kingdom, usually two ways are included. It's faster payment and box payments. And sometimes the banking platforms, they're also providing cross-border payments, which means you can send the money or the remittances from one country to another one. It's specifically split. I specifically split it into two buckets, because this cross-border, once again, becoming a new trend, but not always included in default package or default proposition from the banking APIs. So in a nutshell, four buckets, and let's go and learn about Clearbank. So Clearbank is clearing and agency banking platform, allowing banks and other real-time clearances on payment transactions. And it's the first clearing bank in UK to design the entire IT system around cloud technology. So Clearbank has been active in UK market for quite a long time ago. And actually it's designed to provide, as a platform, provide an access to the third parties for payments accounts and clearing functionality. Clearbank got their retail license, which means they one of the clearing houses in United Kingdom, and it's pretty, in my understanding, it's pretty interesting case because fairly, if you're an MEI institution in United Kingdom and you will try to open your segregated account in, let's say, Barclays, you will not be able to do so nowadays because fairly retail banks, they all look into MEI institutions as rivals because they're trying to build new business models. They're trying to disturb the market and get a specific market share and customers. So retail banks nowadays are not really willing to provide the technical capabilities to startups. And Clearbank is specifically aiming startups for providing their platform by providing an access to their platform to facilitate the payments and accounts opening. So it's pretty cool because Clearbank is not providing B2C services. They focused on the B2B market and specifically on the startups scene, I would say. But if you're an established institution or even the retail bank, it's still allowed to use Clearbank for you. And what is the functionality of the Clearbank? So really, first one is opening accounts. There are two types of accounts that you can create through the APIs in Clearbank. We'll talk about this a little bit later. You have the possibility to initiate the payments. They provide the embedded banking nowadays, so you can actually implement the deposit function. I will not cover this today with this session. They also provide in the multi-currency, which means you can create accounts with the different currencies and then do the Forex exchange to move or to exchange the one currency to another. Today, we will focus more on the accounts opening and transfers. And I think it will give you a good sense what is the best way to use the general banking API. It doesn't matter. Maybe you will go to United States and use Galileo or Marqeta for accounts or something similar. The approach will be fairly the same. So what is the overall integration looks like? Like on the left side, you can see financial institution. It's basically the startup or the entity that is having a contract with the Clearbank. And the integration is quite straightforward from the engineering perspective because you will need to use HTTP REST APIs. In this case, there is no requirements for the virtual network between two institutions, which is sometimes required from other vendors. And you are basically operating in two modes. You are doing direct requests to the APIs. And then the second way, the webhooks, it's when the Clearbank itself letting you know that something has happened, and it's called webhooks, which means your institution should have APIs published publicly in the internet with a specific authentication that you can receive the webhook from the Clearbank and know that something going on in the system. So two ways road, and it's quite simple from the technology perspective, but in this way, it's pretty powerful because it gives quite straightforward functionality to your institution. I think engineers can dive deep into the portal with all API specifications, but today we will go like more on the business side. What does it mean for you and for the integration? And all the starts with the accounts. So in case in United Kingdom to be part of the banking institutions and making the transfers, your institution should get the sort code. And if you have your own sort code, then it's configured on the Clearbank side, which means you have institution accounts opened for your entity. And usually it looks like that. You have mandated minimum balance account, and you have general segregation account. General segregation account, that's something that you might hear a lot when you're MEI. It's a specific account which holds the total balances of your customers. So let's say you have 10 customers and each holds £10, then your segregated account should hold £100 on the segregated account. And once again, the story that I mentioned, usually the retail banks, they don't want to open segregated accounts, and Clearbank is providing you an ability to create institution accounts and operate through their platform. They also include not just the API, but the back office, which allows you to log in, manage your customers who will have an access to those accounts, and have a visibility about the balances, reconciliation, and so on and so forth. So it's internal thing. Usually as engineer, you're not dealing with all those accounts, but you should be aware that there is a segregated account which is holding the money, because it's heavily affecting your payments and payments in and payments out functionality. Also, there is two types of accounts that you can create in ClearBank. And one of the type is real account. And real account is a physical account which is held with the ClearBank, and it can be used for sending and receiving the payments. And the balance of the real account is held by a ClearBank, which means it can be viewed via institution portal, it can be used via APIs, and which is important, it's reconciled by ClearBank. And usually your institution's accounts are real accounts. You can create the real accounts on behalf of your customers. But that's quite hard if you have several integrations. Even like, let's assume that ClearBank is used for opening or creating bank accounts, but you have another system which is used for issuing the cards. And then we are becoming in kind of technical issue, because on one hand, there is a ClearBank which knows, or basically which acts as a banking account, but there is another institution, let's say Stripe, because Stripe gives an ability to issue the cards. There is a Stripe with the cards, and you somehow need to combine this into seamless functionality for your customers, because nowadays it would be quite strange if you have a card and the balance on the card is different from your banking account, which is this card is connected to. So how it's done, and usually the second type of the account is used. This type of the account is called virtual. And this one is used as a shadow account, which should mirror an account held on your system, on your platform. And each virtual account is linked to the real account held at ClearBank. In this case, the real account can be segregated account or any other type of account or the business flow that you would like to implement, and also confirmed by the compliance team and treasury team. So usually two other roles involved in designing the systems is compliance team, which is responsible for making sure that everything is done under the specific requirements of the license, and the treasury team, because they will be responsible on the daily operations with the funds, cash flow, making sure that the system operates as required. So let's say if I would like to connect like different vendor with a virtual or physical card, usually in this case, the virtual accounts on the ClearBank is used. So, and here are certain slides how the system might be potentially designed if you have two different banking rails implemented to your system. And in this case, you can see that example is Modular Finance and ClearBank. And there is a third-party card management system. So in this case, our platform, let's say Nubank, holds the account service, which knows the exact balance and information about the customer balance. Let's say it's £100. And then when we create an account for Igor, usually the process is that the accounts are created in one or another system. Let's assume that we created the accounts only ClearBank. So when the KYC finished for Igor, we are dispatching the work for creating the account structure in ClearBank. Account created, then the ClearBank is basically calling our webhook, and then we are getting the notification that account was created. Same time, we can go to the card issuing partner and create the card. And if we need, we can use even other systems to create accounts. And in this case, on the right side, you see the investment story, which is creating Geo accounts and required information in other systems. So when we're dealing with the third parties as banking APIs, it means that we can structure the system two main ways. One is when we are relying on the system of the third party as a ClearBank for holding the main knowledge about the money and the balance of our customer. In this case, the real accounts are used. But if we would like to build an abstraction and let's say hold the information about balances on our side, then we can use virtual accounts and we can create internal account service which is then orchestrating the requests and the balances between different systems. And it gives pretty great great flexibility, because in this case, customers are working with your platform. And that's maybe the way how Revolut is implementing their function. Because if you're familiar with the Revolut, there are different currencies. And when you have, I don't know, United States dollars and pounds, but you have one card, if you're running out of the balance on one account, then another one is used. And that's the way how it's implemented. So usually there is aggregated service, which is reading the balance. And when the card is used, it's reading the information from your all accounts. If the balance of dollars account is zero, then another account can be used. And in this case, having this integration on your side, pretty flexible, gives pretty flexible cases for the business, as for instance, Revolut implemented. So I think in nutshells, it give you an overview how it can be structured for flexibility. And actually, our product fintech core is designed this way. So we actually providing the module, which is called account orchestration, which is acting this way. So you can include ClearBank and then other services, plug in them as connectors, and then you will hold the balances of your system with this account service. And you can plug in card management systems for issuing the cards, and the system, fintech core system itself, will manage all those requests and balances seamlessly for you. And then you can use our mobile applications or even implement yourself. So that's how it should be done. And let's take a look on the complexity, how the incoming payments done. So in this case, we see that, and we're the first step, that ClearBank is receiving the payment, and it calls the webhook to notify you that you're receiving the payment. And you can actually do the check-in in this case. And as the next steps, you can call your internal payment service, which is checking for, let's say, matching even beneficiary information. Because one type of the fraud is to leverage third parties for getting the funds from one person to another, and when this payment is not matching their first name, last name. So you can do the bunch of checks at this webhook, and then decide if you would like to sweep the money to the segregated account or not. Because in the case of ClearBank, you not holding the money on the client's accounts, you are sweeping to segregated accounts because that's what EMEA license is required. So that's the usual way how it's done. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you have questions like around this scheme, you can ask the questions a little bit later when you will be you will have a chance to ask the questions in the end of the session. And the same way we can take a look on ongoing payment. So in this case, you will notify, basically your code will get the notification from the mobile application that the customer would like to start the payment. In this case, step one is to check the sufficient balance of the segregated account, and then start the sweeping from the segregated account to the customer account. And when this sweeping is ended, you will receive the notification of the successful webhook, and then you can dispatch the payment on behalf of the customer. Because if you're starting payment of this from the segregated account, A, it's not allowed, and B, even if it's allowed, then the beneficiary information will be different because it's institutional account rather than customer account. So usually incoming and outgoing payments, they split into two different steps. And this schemes, I think, gives a really good overview how it's done. So usual information, which is you should keep in mind with the ClearBank, because with the ClearBank, even if you have signed contract and paid contract, today we will not talk about the pricing, but overall, that's a process that is required. You need to sign the contract, do the payments for the ClearBank, and after that, you will have an access only to the sandbox environment. And from my experience, you need to do the integration and specifically integration testing, because financial information is something which is really important. Usually we're using event-driven architecture to properly store information, make sure even if certain services, they are out of the service, then you can restart the process of processing the payments in, payments out, make sure that the balances are maintained and robust on the system side. You need to do the high-load test and stress test because in this case, usually we've seen in production that there are a lot of cases when the system doesn't behave as designed or as required with the high load and with the stress situations, when you have too much traffic or certain data is not well formed, etc., etc. So this is really important. It's not required by the ClearBank side, but I think it's really, really important for going into the production. And one important thing is that all the requests are signed. And in this case, you will need to make sure that your system is compliant with the FIPS 142 edition of the compliance. And you need to do the self-assessment for going into the production. Usually it takes time. It should be considered into the timelines because implementation, from our experience, from the scratch takes about several weeks. But after that, you will need to actually to do the self-assessment and then get an access to the production, test several payments on the production. And after that, the full-fledged production will be available for you. And I think ClearBank is a pretty good example of banking APIs because it's fairly simple, but also gives a really good robustness and scalability. Because one of the things that we've seen with the vendors, sometimes they're not really ready for the high load and scalability, but ClearBank is not one of these cases. You can actually make sure that it can work with a large number of clients. So once again, the FIPS is the standard that you need to take sure that there is a protection of cryptographic modules within your system. Another thing that ClearBank doesn't require the penetration testing, but from our experience, it gives a really good secure level and taking in account all the events that are happening. Secureness of the system is really important, and we suggest to use third parties for the penetration testing, but it's not really required by the ClearBank. And the last item that today I would like to highlight is the annual reports of the ClearBank. In this case, on the website, ClearBank provided not just information about the APIs, but they post yearly reports about the business and overall market situation. And I think it's pretty cool to read this information because there are quite a lot of insights how the specific functionality of ClearBank is implemented with their clients, but also there are really good information. There is really good information about the market. And as you can see, one of the example they show in the UK payments volumes, which are potentially growing until 20 to 31st. And you can read reports. There are a lot of quite interesting and valuable information that usually is quite rare to find on the market. And thank you for today's webinar. And if you have questions, I think you can go and use these QR codes. My team will help me to find out if there are some questions. I will wait a little bit, and I would be glad to answer your questions today, or if you will use those QR codes, answer them later. Okay, I don't see any questions at this stage, but you're warmly welcome to do so for the links that we provided. And thank you for attending today's webinar. It was a pleasure to talk about the ClearBank functionality and banking APIs, and looking forward to see you on the next webinars. Thank you once again. Have a great day. Bye.